Okay, I don't see any other questions, but I do see our friend Alexander De Croo, the administrator of UNDP online. If we could put him on the screen. Great. Alexander, can you hear us?
I do hear you. Do you hear me?
Perfectly. Great. So, as mentioned, we are joined by Alexander De Croo, who, as you know, is the UN administrator of UNDP. He's joining us from Jerusalem, just back from Gaza, and we thank him for hastily arranging this press briefing, which will not be too long, but he'll take a few questions. But please, you have the floor for some remarks, and then we'll come to questions.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you to have the occasion to address you. Indeed, from here in East Jerusalem, coming to the term of a visit of 3 days here, where we visited projects that UNDP is active in East Jerusalem, on the West Bank, and in Gaza. I had yesterday the occasion with our teams and to visit our teams in Gaza, who have been there over the past 2 years. Very, very difficult circumstances of living for the people of Gaza. I have been Minister of Development for 6 years in the past. This is the worst living conditions that I have ever seen. Extremely painful conditions to live in. We are, as UNDP, working in a recovery effort on 3 dimensions. First of all, rubble removal and solid waste removal. Rubble removal, we have done approximately 0.5% of the total. At the current pace, it will take us 7 years to remove all the rubble. So we need to find a way to get the authority to have more capacity to do rubble removal and rubble recycling. 90% of the people of Gaza today live in the middle of that rubble, which is extremely dangerous also from a health point of view, and unexploded weapons which are there. Second dimension on which we work is recovery housing. As I said, 90% of the population lives in what you could not even call tents. I mean, this is very, very rudimentary tents. We come there with what we call recovery housing units, which is definitely not reconstruction, but it's an improvement on what is available for the moment. We've been able to build 500 of these. We have 4,000 which are ready, but the needs are gigantic. Between 200 and 300,000 units are necessary to give people a better living. Not the living that they should have, but a better living than what's available for the moment. And then third dimension, which we work on, is private sector restart. Private sector has been in hibernation, but is with limited investment and limited work for cash programs, being able, for example, in food processing, to get back going. So. To be able to help more people and to provide more recovery to the inhabitants of Gaza, we basically have one big ask to the Israeli authorities, and that is to have more access. More access for material to do debris removal, more access with our recovery housing units, and more access to help the private sector that we can restart. We understand the security concerns of the Israeli authorities, but that would not be a reason to not provide organizations such as UNDP, other UN organizations, and international NGOs to provide us the more access that is definitely needed to be able to help more people.
Thank you very
much for any questions.
Great, thank you. We'll start with Edie Lederer.
Thank you very much on behalf of the United Nations Correspondents Association for doing this briefing. My name is Edith Lederer from the Associated Press. You mentioned the really dire state of Palestinians and the need for massive amounts, especially of even limited intermediate housing. What are the Israeli objections to, specific objections to sending in, for instance, big bulldozers to clear rubble and to getting in a lot more housing units? Thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you for this. Thank you for this first question. Look, we are in continuous discussions with the Israeli authorities on what would be the right conditions to have more access, and this often leads to dual use discussions where we try to explain as good as possible and also take measures to make sure that there would not be inappropriate use of the material that we bring in. I've had the occasion here over the past days to also be helpful in those discussions, and we really hope that we can bring in the necessary material that is only one use, and that one use is helping the people of Palestine and especially of Gaza, who are in very, very dire, have to survive in very dire circumstances. Next question, please.
Thank you so much, Ephraim Qusayfi from Arab News Daily. You asked for more access, but could you elaborate just a little bit on what the current access conditions are? What are the restrictions in place? Could you just describe the pictures of how much access you have?
Well, the current limitations is obviously the dual use discussion that I just brought on. Where as I said in my introduction, I understand the security concerns of the Israeli side, but that should not stop us from being able to get more access to, for example, bring in more of our recovery housing units. And to make sure that those units can only really be used for people to have shelter in the winter in Gaza, which sometimes leads to very difficult circumstances. And so we really have only one ask: is please provide organizations such as UNDP and the others the necessary access to be able to provide the humanitarian and recovery support that every operator and every state is obligated to provide. Next question.
Just one question on, as you know, the Board of Peace is meeting this week, and I think $5 billion have already been pledged. Do you envision ways in which you coordinate with the Board of Peace to improve access, as you said, remains the main barrier for you in Palestine? Thank you. Gaza.
Well, if we would move into the second phase of the ceasefire, additional humanitarian access was actually part of that resolution, and that would obviously be something which we would welcome, and not just we welcome. I mean, the inhabitants of Gaza would welcome that. In the current circumstances, we really need all hands, and it's really all hands on deck, and all type of support, being it financial or being it operational, is welcome. You have 2.2 million people in Gaza, as I said, who live in very, very, very difficult circumstances. So any help in providing more access in a safe way would be to their help. Next question.
Thank you very much for the insights. I'm Muna Autul with Al-Quds Al-Arabi. I have a few questions, please. First, on the Gaza early recovery investor map and financial analysis. You've identified about 70 areas for businesses. We're trying to understand the mechanisms of action. How this works in practice, especially given the lack of security and governance problems. How this will be led by Palestinians themselves to ensure inclusive and sustainable growth, and most importantly, their autonomy.
Okay, no, great question. That investor mapping is something which we have been working on with our local team here over the past weeks, because we see and we believe that part of the recovery will come from a well-functioning private sector. And so the mapping that we have done is to see at what are the kind of businesses in hibernation that exist today, and what are the needs. And obviously the needs are huge, especially in food processing, in construction, and in other domains which are really pure necessities. We see that those needs are there. So we did a mapping, which is really not a mapping for our own. I mean, this is a mapping that we make for development finance institutions or for commercial banking institutions, to give them an overview of what the investment needs are. Those decisions on whether to invest or not to invest, that is not our role. What we did is based on the knowledge that we have of being the last 2 years in Gaza on the field, is give an overview of where we see opportunities for investment. But in a broader sense than the question that you asked, obviously for us it is crucial that the reconstruction of Gaza, being it the reconstruction physically or the reconstruction of society, will have to be led by Palestinians. Next question.
Thank you very much. I think we have to let Mr. De Croo go, but thank you very much. We hope to see you in person very soon in the briefing room. Thank you.